Welcome back to LDB Games. I'm Lord Darth Balls. Today I'm bringing you another Raid Shadow Legends video, and this video is going to be about Borgoth, the SCARAB King. I'm going to go through his skills and what champions I use to beat him on the hard Doom Tower floor 30. So first, let's get into his skills. Now, when it comes to dealing with Borgoth's kit, there's two main themes that follow across his skills. So I'm going to read through them all, and then I'm going to connect the dots before I talk about who I chose and why. So his two active skills are both AoE abilities. Important to know. His A1 will place a decreased attack and a decreased speed for 2 turns. And any champion that you have that doesn't have a shield buff up will get an extra hit, and that hit will place a provoke. His A2 will place an extra hit for each buff on your champions. So if all of your champions have 2 buffs, Borgoth will hit them 3 times. Now, with the extra hits only, if the champion does not have a shield buff, Borgoth will steal one of those, a random buff. If your champion has a shield buff, Borgoth will remove one of those buffs. Now, any one of your champions that has a buff stolen, Borgoth places a True Fear on. And any champion that has one of those buffs removed, Borgoth will place a Fear on. So this first passive, Spectral Horror, will decrease the amount of damage that Borgoth receives based on the amount of his max HP that you've decreased. So at the start of every round, right, when Borgoth's max HP has been decreased by less than 10%, so 0 to 10% max HP decreased, he will only take 10% of the damage you do. It'll reduce it by 90%. When you break 10% max HP, reduces it by 60. You'll do 40% of your damage output. All the way until you break a 30% reduction in Borgoth's max HP, do you do 100% of your damage output. And then his second passive, Easy Prey, anytime one of your champions attacks him and doesn't have a shield buff, he immediately counterattacks. And remember, any champions that don't have a shield buff on his A1 get that Provoke. So you don't want specific champions ever getting that Provoke, because that'll throw an entire run out of whack. Then he has Almighty Immunity, which is some standard immunities for most bosses. You can't stun, freeze, sleep, provoke him, no block cooldowns. You can't cool down increasing effects, no fears, true fears, HP exchange, or balancing effects. So the two main themes of dealing with Borgoth's kit are you have to be decreasing his max HP, and you have to have a shield buff on your entire team 100% of the fight. So let's get into the champions that I chose and why I chose them. So when it comes to building my team to take on Borgoth, I'm looking for a champion that has a shield ability, that can throw a shield up for the same amount of turns that the skill has on cooldown. I'm looking for champions that can do damage and decrease enemy max HP to take away Borgoth's shield. And I'm looking for champions that can decrease turn meter to prevent Borgoth from getting his turn as much as possible. His turns, even if you have a shield, can totally throw a run out because it'll throw out decreased attack and decreased speed on his A1 alone. And that decreased speed can throw any tunings that you do with your gear way out of whack and can mess up all the feng shui in your team. Right, so those are the 3 things that I'm looking for in my team. So let's start with the shield champion, right? For the shield champion, I use Lodric. His A3 is pretty clutch. It's a 2-turn shield on a 2-turn cooldown, and the shield is based on his max HP. So you can build out, and I did build him out with some good HP, and I use his aura to get some extra, 25% extra HP, right? So I'm getting almost another like 4,500 HP. So I'm cracking 60k HP here, which puts up a pretty nice size shield. It's not going to compare to Valk, but you can really get some nice shields with this guy, which is really important because when those attacks come, you don't want to lose your shield. Losing your shield from one of Borgoth's attack can be treacherous. So obviously I want enough defense to stay alive, but the key is HP and speed, right? The SCARAB King on floor 30 is 200 speed. So you want your champions to be over 200, and you want your shield champion to be your fastest champion, so that he's always putting the shields up before the rest of your team goes. Other shield champions that are really good, Miscreated Monster, and even the rare Metal Shaper. Those three are the three most popular ones. They all have the shields on an equivalent buff versus cooldown duration. Now, when you're looking at alternative shield champions, maybe you don't have these shield champions, you're going to want to consider using a second champion to balance it out. So before I got Lodric and Metal Shaper, I was using Zelota. Now, Zelota puts up a shield for 3 turns, but it's on a 4-turn cooldown. So I paired him with, where is he? Sandlash Survivor. Because Sandlash, on her A2, it increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So you can take that 3-turn shield from Zelota and turn it into a 4-turn shield with Sandlashed. Not to mention, she has some really good survivability. She can help you get through the waves with her Provoke and the decreased duration of all enemy buffs, especially if you get to the higher levels. And the ally protection and block damage is a really clutch ability because Borgoth's hits can be pretty hard. And if one of your champions drops below 50%, this kicks in and all of a sudden your damage, you're taking way less damage to make it through the fight, which is nice. You can also use a champion like Painkeeper. Painkeeper has the decreased cooldowns of all skills by 1 turn, right? So you can take that 4-turn cooldown and turn it into 3, as long as you have the tuning set up right. But for for this video, I'm going to be using Lodric. He's built, and I built him in the shield set. Now, I use this team on auto. You never know what's going to happen with the champion's skill levels. Maybe you're running into Borgoth, and Lodric just used his A3. He's not going to have it. Having that shield set gives you a really nice little cushion. It give you some time to catch up on your skills, so that when you're facing Borgoth, he doesn't come out the gate and just ruin your tune or your team. For my next champion, I bring in Stag Knight, and I bring him in as an overall debuffer who serves a multiple purposes. Right, his A1 has a decreased speed, help me to slow down the Scarab so he doesn't get his turn. And his A2 has the decreased defense and decreased attack to both decrease the damage that I take and increase the damage that I do. When it comes to building him, I put him in Stalwart set. Stalwart set reduces the damage that your champion takes from AoE abilities, and all of the Scarab King's attacks are AoEs, which is nice. In terms of stats, right, gotta have enough accuracy to land those debuffs, enough HP and defense to sustain, and you'll see I have him running at 210 speed just behind Lodric. So Lodric goes, throws the shields up, Stag Knight goes, drops the defense, makes way for my damage dealers to come in and do the most damage that they can. So that leads us into the damage dealers. After Stag Knight, the only thing that's left is decreasing enemy max HP, controlling Borgoth's turn meter, and doing as much damage as I can. So when it comes to decreasing enemy max HP, there's 2 different ways you can do it. You can use a champion that has a skill that decreases enemy max HP. I have Ripper here who can do that. His A1 has a 10% reduction based on the damage you do, and his A3 has a 30% reduction. Some other champions you can use, Pigstigger, I think Little Miss Annie has it. There's a couple champions. In my opinion, the most effective way to decrease the Scarab's enemy max HP is by using Destroy set. So I actually have a second Coldheart built solely for the purpose of taking down Borgoth the Scarab King, because not only is her A3 scales based on enemy max HP, even though it's capped against Doom Tower bosses, it still does a lot of damage. But that's not the only reason that her A3 is huge here. The other reason is the 100% turn meter reduction. Right? She has the extra 30% of inflicting a critical hit, so you can totally min-max her crit rate and crit damage a little bit. You got to have enough accuracy to drop that turn meter, and obviously enough HP so that she can actually stay alive. She has only 187 speed, but I have the Whirlwind of Death mastery, so that by the time she's broken through the waves, she has an extra 18 speed, putting her exactly where I need her. Right? 187 plus 18 is 205. So she's coming in just behind Stag Knight, in with the rest of my damage and control champions. I actually have a second champion in Destroy. I use Armiger. Now, I threw him in Destroy because he also has a skill that scales based on enemy max HP, but the real reason that he's in here is his A1. As long as the hit is critical and he has enough accuracy, he will drop the turn meter by 30%. Again, one of the main goals is to not let Borgoth get his turn, so as much turn meter reduction as I can get, I'm going to take. Like I said, I have him in Destroy. You can see really the only thing, crit rate and accuracy. Him being, his base stats being as low as they are, it's tough to kind of get him up there in defense, but I was really focusing on crit rate and accuracy and keeping that Destroy set intact. After that, the only real champion I got left is another control champion, and she's a bit of a wild card. I am talking about my girl, Alure. And she's a wild card because of her affinity. She is a magic affinity champion, and Borgoth is force. So she runs the risk of getting a weak hit. Now, she comes in strictly for her A1. This A1 is a triple random hit, which doesn't matter against Borgoth because he's one enemy. And each hit, if they're critical, will decrease the target's turn meter by 25%. So if you get 3 crits, that is a 75% turn meter reduction on her A1. One of the best A1s for turn meter reduction against bosses in the game. So the only thing that you need is crit rate and accuracy, just like Armiger. So that's the team that I use to take on floor 30 on the hard Doom Tower and take down Borgoth, the SCARAB King. It is an auto-friendly comp. I'm going to throw a clip of my run at the end of the video, so stay tuned if you want to check that out. And did you like my video? If you did, hit that like button, click that subscribe button to see more videos from me, and let me know down in the comments how you think I did. Do you guys use a different team? Do you use this one? Are you having trouble with it? Is there something I can do to help? Let me know. I've been Lord Darth Balls. Enjoy the raid.